Flying is the safest mode of travel, except for those individuals with disabilities. How dangerous, you ask? 29 broken wheelchairs every single day is just one element of the abuse suffered by differently abled passengers. That is equivalent to over 10,000 wheelchairs in 2019 alone, according to Washington Post in December 2019. Humiliation, anxiety, dread, and potential injury, people with disabilities suffer with these problems before their flight takes off and long after landing. For the average traveler, lost or damaged baggage is a minor inconvenience. But when the airline takes away your mobility and literally stands you where you are, it is a major problem. Specialized chairs cannot be immediately replaced, causing suffering to last for months. People with disabilities who travel by air find it almost impossible to be respected and treated with human dignity. Airlines have taken no substantive action to address this grotesque condition, and they blatantly ignore it. People with disabilities have suffered this injustice for far too long. The aviation industry has continually been avoiding fair compensation, offering meager temporary replacements of mobility devices, and it's time we finally speak to it. It is vital to identify key causes, effects, and solutions to this troublesome injustice. The causes of mishandled wheelchairs in air transportation can be seen in 2 points. First, despite the efforts to train ground workers, the destruction of property continues. Second, the lack of specific responsibility for wheelchair damage results in victims being passed around to various parts of the airlines, none of whom provide satisfaction. Congress in the 2018 FAA Reauthorization Act told airlines and TSA to fix these air problems. They demanded more effective training, better and faster service, alongside better care of equipment, such as wheelchairs. The TSA extended all training of newly hired TSA agents from weeks 2 to week 3. The instructions were included screening people with disabilities and medical conditions. Agents and supervisors discussed the response methods to specific situations, including dealing with disability issues. Still, most of the complaints that NPR in October 2018 heard from passengers were a result of agents not following this training. According to transportation.gov in 2019, there was a 5.6% increase in complaints post-training. In a span of 3 years, between 2015 and 2018, there were over 130,000 records of disability complaints registered related to U.S. flights, according to the Transportation Department as of September 2021. In 2012, Jane Grey was planning her Hawaiian dream. That vacation was shattered by Alaskan Airlines. This case, reported by Elliott Advocacy Law Firm in June 2012, highlights the specific lack of accountability. The airline's broke her wheelchair, offered her dreadful replacement, leaving her stranded at her hotel. The compensation offered to Jane was a mere $500 on a destroyed $6,000 vacation, not to mention the emotional anguish of missing out on all her planned activities. This permeates across the airline industry and begins at the point of arrival, through the boarding process, in-flight experience, and even after deboarding. They are treated as tools and resources, and individuals with disabilities rely as nothing more than luggage to be stowed. There are 2 crucial effects on the victims of this negligence. First, physical health repercussions. Second, being emotional distress on specially abled. Damaging a wheelchair isn't simply disruption of the differently abled, it's a matter of life and death. Unfortunately for Ingracia Figueroa, it was death. She was a distinguished disability rights advocate who died last October at the age of 51 due to United Airlines' carelessness. According to Forbes, in November 2021, her $30,000 custom wheelchair was broken by the airlines, which left her in a loaner wheelchair for months. The $30,000 wheelchair was destroyed while being loaded into cargo. Her custom-built wheelchair supported her leg amputation and spinal injury, and without it, she had major difficulties even sitting down. For 5 hours, she was made to sit on a broken manual wheelchair, due to which she was hospitalized as she experienced dreadful pains. The manual wheelchair did not properly support her body, and as a consequence, she developed pressure sores. This then developed to an infection, eventually spreading out to her hip bone. Even after emergency surgery, Ingracia could not be saved. During the months in the hospital, United Airlines, which has a net worth of over $45 billion as of 21st February 2022, reported by MD Daily, fought not to replace the wheelchair they damaged. After her demise, they simply put out a statement saying they were saddened by the news. Is a PR statement justification for such injustice? As reported by the CDC, differently abled people face severe emotional distress compared to those without disabilities. Even if results aren't deadly, airlines breaking mobility aids literally robs wheelchair-bound people from their ability to move. If you think your experience during the pandemic resulted in loss of agency, mental health, and flexibility, airlines create such an environment for differently abled people every time they take a flight. The lack of inclusion by airlines towards the differently abled makes navigating the world on wheels next to impossible. Not only is traveling as a differently abled 4 times more expensive, according to Quartz Media as of August 8, 2019, but airlines fail to accommodate the differently abled. What can we do about this? There are 3 primary steps to stop such heinous acts from reoccurring. First method would be to regularly train airline employees about appropriate handling of mobility devices. Secondly, strengthening legislation for the compensation of victims of this injustice. And lastly would be to raise awareness on this prevalent issue. Airlines and TSA work on fixing air travel problems like these and demanded more training, better and faster service, and better care for the equipment such as wheelchairs. To further strengthen training, Congress could introduce a law that ensures airline employees are being tested for their understanding of wheelchair handling procedures and corrective actions for those who fail to pass a test. 1 in 4 adults in the United States have a disability, according to the Center of Disease and Prevention, And to recognize the spectrum of disability requires comprehensive and repeated training. The second method would be to raise awareness about this issue within the aviation industry. Getting workers to actually understand how important a wheelchair is another duty. It is an individual's well-being, and it will be a step towards the right direction to lowering damages of disability transportation devices. The Air Carrier Act requires airlines to modify their procedures to accommodate travelers with disabilities. This would be followed by imposing fines if businesses are unable to set by these standards. It would reduce consumer harm. On a business scale, airlines can further welcome and accommodate their wheelchair-bound customers by having national agencies incentivize the development of airline design to accommodate for the differently abled. Many of us are unaware of the inequalities for differently abled people, and that's why on an individual scale, we can do better. That is why I would like to introduce a free course offered by the University of Pittsburgh on disability awareness and support, which helps students be more aware of their surroundings and peers. This is one step towards making this world a better place for everybody. Ingracia would still be here with us today if it weren't for the ineffective training and absence for accountability by United Airlines. The traumatizing physical and emotional effects this has on individuals lasts a lifetime. We have seen effective solutions to this problem from 3 standpoints: of legislator, business, and individual perspective. With these solutions, we can ensure that there won't be another innocent life lost. For decades, the aviation industry has not been held accountable for their actions, and it's about time we make that change, because we are the change.